I was sitting in the doctor's waiting room, the kind with those stiff vinyl chairs that stick to your skin in the summer heat. When my phone buzzed in my purse, it was my only daughter, Sophia. Her voice on the line was sharp, almost detached, like she was reading from a script. "Mom, we're heading to Europe tomorrow. I sold the beach house and your old Chevy. We needed the cash. Talk soon." And just like that, she hung up. 45 years of pouring my heart into raising her, sacrificing sleep and dreams for her happiness. And she tossed me aside like yesterday's newspaper. But I took a slow, steady breath and felt a quiet smile creep across my face. There was something my precious Sophia didn't know about me. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I'm 71 years old, living in a modest bungalow in Charleston, South Carolina, where the air always carries a hint of salt from the nearby ocean. Until that phone call, I thought I knew my daughter inside and out. I'd become a widow just 6 months earlier. My husband, William, had slipped away from a sudden heart attack during our morning coffee ritual. For 45 years, we'd started every day the same way. Him pouring my coffee with just the right amount of cream, buttering my toast, and planting a gentle kiss on my forehead. "Good morning, my heart," he'd say with that warm smile. Those were his final words to me. Since William's passing, Sophia had been more involved in my life, or so I'd believed. She'd visit a couple of times a week, helped with the funeral details, even drove me to the supermarket. She insisted I get this checkup. "Mom, you have to take care of yourself now that Dad's gone," she'd say, flashing that smile I mistook for genuine affection. But now, in the harsh fluorescent light of the waiting room, I saw it for what it was, convenience, not love. The beach house had been our family's haven for decades. William and I scraped together every penny to buy it when Sophia was just a teenager. Summers there were magical, building sandcastles, grilling burgers on the deck, celebrating birthdays with cake crumbs scattered on the porch. Sophia brought her high school sweethearts, then later her husband, Daniel. I'd cook hearty meals, wash the linens, and keep everything spotless. It was our tradition, our glue. I never imagined she'd reduce it to dollar signs. And the Chevy, that rusty old pickup William cherished like a child. He'd wash it every Sunday afternoon, change the oil with religious precision, and park it under the big oak tree to shield it from the sun. Sophia knew how much that truck meant to me. It still held William's scent in the worn leather seats, a faint mix of aftershave and engine oil. It was my last tangible piece of him. When she hung up, I sat there amid the coughs and murmurs of other patients, feeling a strange calm wash over me. No tears this time, not like the floods that had come in the months since William's death. Instead, a clarity settled in, because right then, I remembered something I'd buried in my grief. 3 days before he passed, William had handed me a plain manila envelope over breakfast. "Eleanor, tuck this away in your nightstand drawer," he'd said, his eyes serious but kind. "If anything happens to me, open it when you're ready. No rush." I'd nodded, slipped it into the drawer without peeking, and in the whirlwind of funeral plans and heartache, it had slipped my mind entirely. But now it called to me like a lifeline. The nurse called my name, pulling me from my thoughts. The doctor gave me a clean bill of health for my age. Just eat better, rest more, the usual advice. I smiled politely, but my mind was miles away, fixed on that envelope waiting at home. As I walked to the bus stop, since, according to Sophia, I no longer had a car, I couldn't suppress a small, knowing smile. There was poetry in this betrayal, a twist of fate my daughter couldn't see coming. The bus rumbled along Charleston's tree-lined streets, past historic homes and bustling shops. People hurried about their lives, each carrying their own burdens and secrets. I had mine too, and I was about to uncover them. Arriving home, I headed straight to my bedroom, the one William and I had shared for so long. The envelope was there, untouched, with my name scrawled in his steady handwriting. My hands shook as I sat on the edge of the bed, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the quilt. I opened it carefully, like unwrapping a fragile gift. Inside were legal papers, property deeds, bank statements, and a handwritten letter from William. Tears blurred my vision as I read his words. "My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, I'm no longer by your side. Forgive me for keeping this from you. I wanted to shield you from the worries. Over the years, I invested our savings wisely. We have more than the beach house, 6 other properties, including the apartment complex where Sophia and Daniel live. Shares in companies worth a small fortune. You're wealthy, my love, always have been in spirit, now on paper too." I sifted through the documents, my breath catching. Deeds to rental homes in quiet neighborhoods, a downtown condo, a cozy motel along the coast, and yes, the towering apartment building Sophia called home. William had owned it silently for a decade, all under a company name I never knew. I was the sole heir, bank balances with figures that seemed like typos. William, our humble mechanic, had been a savvy investor, turning every scrimped dollar into gold without a word. In the letter he explained his secrecy. Our Sophia, Eleanor, if she knew our true worth, it might change her. I want her love for us to be real, not tied to what we have. The irony hit me like a wave. She'd betrayed us thinking we had little when we had everything. That night sleep evaded me. I wandered the house, fingers tracing the faded wallpaper. The knickknacks Sophia had always called dated. Family photos lined the walls. Sophia at 5, giggling on William's knee. Our beach vacations. Her wedding day. Where had my sweet girl gone? When had greed eclipsed her heart? The phone rang early the next morning. Sophia again, her tone softer, almost saccharine. Mom, how are you? We transferred your share from the sales. It's in your account. Not a ton, but it'll tide you over while you downsize. My share? I asked, voice even. Yeah, 30%. Fair, right? We need the rest for our European venture. Daniel's got a killer opportunity. 30% of my own belongings. How generous. When do you fly out? This afternoon. Bags packed. We'll be gone 6 months, maybe more if it pans out. But don't fret. When we return, we'll help you find a little place suited to you. Suited to me as if she knew my needs. Safe travels, Sophia. Oh, Mom, I knew you'd get it. You're always so understanding. Love you. Click. I stood there, phone in hand, and laughed. A deep, freeing laugh I hadn't mustered since William's death. The absurdity! My daughter had robbed me to fund a likely flop, discarding me with ease. But the hurt wasn't the money, it was her casual erasure of 45 years of love. I checked my account online. A piddly sum from undervalued sales rushed for quick cash. From my window, I watched Sophia and Daniel load suitcases into a taxi. Laughing, kissing, oblivious. They didn't glance my way, no goodbye. As the cab vanished, I spread William's documents on the kitchen table. Decisions loomed. I could sue, reclaim everything. But a better, more instructive path whispered to me. I dialed Mr. Thompson, William's old lawyer who'd attended the funeral. Mrs. Hayes, good to hear from you. I need to see you urgently. Found some papers from William. Come by tomorrow morning. That night, I slept deeply, dreaming of William in his favorite armchair, newspaper in lap. He looked up, smiled. It's time, my heart. Time to stand tall. Waking, determination surged through me. For the first time since his passing, purpose lit my path. I'd reclaim what's mine, not vengefully but educationally. I dressed carefully in my favorite navy dress. The one William said made me look regal. Fixed my hair, added a touch of lipstick. The mirror reflected a resilient woman, ready. Mr. Thompson's office was in a stately building downtown, with polished wood and sunlight streaming through tall windows. He greeted me warmly, but his face shifted to astonishment as I showed the documents. Mrs. Hayes, this is extraordinary. William was shrewd. You're the owner of it all. I know. What can I do legally? He confirmed legitimacy, everything mine. The beach house sale? Fraudulent? Sophia had no right. We can void it, pursue fraud charges. No charges? Handle it quietly. Nullify the sale. Secure my control over everything, especially Sophia's building. Keep me anonymous for now. He nodded, intrigued. It'll take weeks, but doable. Leaving empowerment coursed through me. The world bustled on, but mine had transformed. I was no longer the forsaken widow. I was orchestrating from the shadows. The weeks blurred into a dual existence. Publicly, the poor widow abandoned by her daughter. Privately reclaiming my empire, Mr. Thompson updated me regularly. I maintained routines. Grocery runs, neighbor chats, appearances intact. Mrs. Ellis, my next-door neighbor, approached while I gardened. Eleanor, is it true Sophia jetted off to Europe, leaving you high and dry? Yes, with Daniel. Business plans. How will you manage? William didn't leave much. If only she knew. I'll be fine, dear. Such exchanges repeated. Their pity a mask for my secret amusement. Mr. Thompson called one morning. Beach house sale voided, buyers refunded, unaware of fraud. It's yours. Wonderful. And the apartment building? 2 more weeks for full control. After, I bussed to the coast, sat across from the house. Cream-colored ocean view porch, memories flooded. William barbecuing, Sophia's laughter. An elderly man emerged. "You all right, ma'am?" "Just reminiscing, I knew the owners." "Sad story. They said the old lady was ill. Needed quick sale. But it was illegal. Had to return it. Glad you got your money back." Heart heavy, I left. Sophia's lies about my illness. Stung deepest, she'd painted me as frail to justify her greed. That night, I called Mr. Thompson. "Recover the Chevy, too." Trickier. Sophia had power of attorney you signed post-William's death. Vague memory surfaced. Papers amid grief. For arrangements. How trusting I'd been. Proved deception. We'll try. Routines deepened. Mornings as the widow. Afternoons studying finances, planning. William's investments? Masterful. Sophia's building appreciated rapidly. Daniel? Deep in debt, using the apartment as collateral. Unaware it wasn't his. Banks would soon discover. Mr. Thompson updated. "Full control yours. Chevy recovered. Buyer a friend compensated." Excellent. Now an eviction notice for Sophia. Silence. "Sure, absolutely. Deliver upon return. I sense it'll be soon." I wasn't wrong. Mrs. Ellis rushed over. "Daniel's in bank trouble. Loans on the apartment, but it's not his." Complicated? And no European business. He fled debts. Sophia's returning to sort it. Everything aligned. Sophia trusted Daniel, sacrificed me for him, now facing his deceit. I gazed at stars that night, William's words echoing, stars as watchful souls. "Thank you for protecting me," I whispered. Mr. Thompson called. Sophia landed alone. Daniel stayed. Eviction sent. Anticipation built. Sophia would learn her mother wasn't the victim she assumed. Sophia arrived Tuesday night, Mrs. Ellis reported. Looked wrecked, pale, teary, alone. Doorman needed emergency key. Mr. Thompson confirmed delivery. Phone rang 8 a.m. Sophia frantic. "Mom, urgent. Got weird letter. Vacate apartment in 30 days. Mistake? From whom? William Investments Incubers know it? A poetic, William's name. No, dear. Legit? Help, Daniel ditched me in Europe. Don't understand. Sorry, honey. Where are you? Apartment, but not for long. Can I come over? Irony perfect. She sought the mother she'd discarded. Of course, I prepared. Gray dress, worried expression. She arrived disheveled, thinner, red-eyed. Mom! She hesitated. No hug. Coffee? We sat. Sorry for leaving badly. Past. No, treated you awful. Now alone. What happened? Daniel ran off with a Parisian girl. No business. Escaped debts. Used your sales money. Debts? Over $100K forged my name. Married, I'm liable. Plus eviction. Tears. My heart softened, but I remembered her cold call. Talked lawyer? No money. What now? Maybe stay with you a while. After betrayal, she wanted rescue. Of course, this is home. Surprise. Really? After everything? You're my daughter. Desperate hug, I returned it strategically. She left for things. I called Mr. Thompson. Investigate Daniel's debts. Amounts. Options to separate from Sophia. Secret. Plan. Save her, but first understand rock bottom. Wine poured. Special occasion. Game on. Sophia moved in next day. 2 suitcases, box. Humiliation evident, luxury to childhood room. Found this in apartment. Envelope with my name, William's hand. Smaller than mine. Edward's things. Opened. Letter. Key. If after main envelope, Sophia's in trouble. Key to box 247, downtown bank. Help wisely. Love, William. Safety box? Dad had one. Didn't know, lie. Go see? Maybe leave it, but valuable. Desperation. Okay, tomorrow. Dinner, she cooked, guilty. Europe details worse. Daniel lied everything. Owed tons, used my name. Prove unaware? Complicated. Divorce? Vanished. Sorry. Ruined us both, for him. Who fled? We'll be okay. Both poor because me, if she knew. Bank next day, box opened. Jewels, heirlooms, new pieces. Letter, origins 200K value. Sophia gasped. Fortune. Think? Yes, sell some, get house back. Pay debts. Still, Edward's mess is first. Sure pay his debts? No choice. Painful. Family history to numbers. Home, she examined, calculated. Can get 180K. Careful, gone forever. Must, Mr. Thompson called. Located Daniel, Paris, fake marriage. Evidence fraud. Prove Sophia victim? Yes. Process quietly, finish before tell. Dual life comfortable. Weeks. Sophia struggled. Stretch money, negotiate, job hunt, ruined credit. 3 interviews. 2 no-due legals, 1 night cleaning. Take? Yes, better nothing. Heart broke, pride swelled. She faced reality. Mrs. Ellis visited. Angela different, humble. Learned value. While Sophia worked, Ellis, cruel but brilliant. Hurt, but necessary. Sophia returned tired, dignified. Hard, but Mrs. Johnson helped, started after husband left. Independence, wise, said 2 types. No opportunities, ruined theirs. I'm latter. Know why here, step ahead. Sat. Week's hardest. Important, matters. People love when falls apart. Forgave, not myself, proved changed. Mr. Thompson, process almost done, free her debts. Time, meeting, truth, told Sophia. Lawyer help, no worry cost, nervous. She came, Mr. Thompson. Review, folder, fraud evidence. Who paid? Something tell. Second folder, wealth, shock. You own my building? Knew when I returned? Yes. Why suffer? Learn value lost, family, respect, tears understanding. Saved anyway, by letting learn save self. Free debts, recovered properties. Quit job? Hope not, teaches effort, respect in eyes. Forgive? Long ago, forgive self. Alone, processed, even without money. Learned, nothing valuable as unconditional love. Left, renewed. Weeks, rebuild. Sophia kept job. Finish started. Mrs. Ellis, wisest mother. Angela helped others. Dinner, letter, Edward, prison, regrets. Feel? Nothing, past. Taught true love teaches need learn. Hurts, peace. Plan worked, Sophia stronger. Dreamed William, knew you would. Justice as transformation. Gained authentic relationship. The weeks that followed. Sophia's return were like watching a flower wilt and then slowly, painfully, begin to remember how to stand upright again. She moved into her old childhood, bedroom with the pale lavender walls and the faded posters of boy bands. She'd loved at 16. Every morning I heard her alarm go off at 5:30 for her. Night cleaning shift. The soft shuffle of feet on the hardwood floor. The quiet click of the front door as she left before the sun rose. I would lie in bed listening, heart twisting between pride and a mother's instinctive ache to protect her from hardship. She came home exhausted, smelling faintly of lemon cleaner and industrial wax. Her hands, once manicured and soft, now bore small cuts and calluses. Yet there was something new in her eyes, a quiet steadiness that hadn't been there when she lived in that gleaming downtown apartment with Daniel. She no longer expected the world to bend for her. She was learning to bend instead. One evening she sat at the kitchen table counting out small bills from her first paycheck. $23.70 after taxes. She looked at the money as though it were made of gold. Mom, she said softly, I bought groceries today with my own money. Not much, just pasta, sauce, a bag of apples, but it felt different, like I earned the right to eat them. I poured us both tea and sat across from her. That feeling, I told her, is called dignity. It's heavier than money and lasts longer. She nodded, eyes shining. Then she told me about Mrs. Johnson, the 62-year-old woman who cleaned offices on the same floor. Mrs. Johnson had 3 grown children, a husband who'd walked out 15 years earlier, and arthritis in both knees. Yet every night she arrived with a thermos of coffee, a kind word for everyone, and a playlist of old Motown songs she hummed while scrubbing. She told me something tonight, Sophia said. She said there are 2 kinds of people who end up cleaning floors after dark. The ones who never had a real chance to begin with, and the ones who had every chance in the world and threw it away. Then she asked me which one I was. I waited, heart in my throat. I told her the truth, Sophia continued. I said I was the second kind. I had a mother who loved me, a father who worked himself to the bone so I could have everything, a good education, a comfortable life, and I threw it away chasing a man who only wanted what he could take. She looked down at her hands. Mrs. Johnson just smiled and said, "Well then, baby girl, at least you know exactly why you're here. That puts you one step ahead of most folks." I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. For the first time in months, she didn't pull away. That same week, Mr. Thompson called with an update. "Mrs. Hayes, the paperwork on Daniel's debts is progressing faster than expected. We have solid proof of forgery. Security? Footage from the bank showing him alone at the counter, time-stamped when Sophia was out of town. We also found emails between him and the young woman in Paris discussing the fake marriage before he even left the States. The French authorities are cooperating. We can get Sophia completely released from liability." "How soon?" I asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4. "But Eleanor, are you still sure you want to wait? She's struggling." "I'm sure," I said. "She needs to finish walking through the fire before I hand her the water." He sighed, but there was respect in it. "You're a remarkable woman, Mrs. Hayes." I wasn't sure about remarkable. I only knew that love sometimes has to wear a mask of cruelty to do its deepest work. Sophia kept going to work. She kept coming home tired. She kept learning. One night she arrived with a small paper bag. "I stopped at the corner bakery on the way home," she said. "They were closing, so the day-old croissants were half price. I bought 2, thought we could have them with coffee tomorrow morning." We did. The next morning we sat on the back porch as the sun came up, eating slightly stale croissants and drinking coffee from mismatched mugs. It was the simplest breakfast we'd had in years, and somehow the most precious. "Mom," she said after a long silence, "I've been thinking a lot about Dad lately. About how he never complained. About how he worked double shifts at the garage so I could have dance lessons. So we could take vacations to the beach house. I used to think he was just quiet. Now I realize he was content. There's a difference." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Your father believed that enough was a feast. He didn't need more than what he had as long as the people he loved were safe and happy." Sophia looked at the garden William had planted decades ago. Roses, still blooming despite neglect. "I want to be like him," she whispered. "Not rich, content." Those words settled into me like warm rain. Meanwhile, the neighborhood gossip continued. Mrs. Ellis came over one afternoon carrying a foil pan of lasagna. "Heard some strange talk," she said, setting the dish on the counter. "Folks saying you're not as broke as everyone thought. That Sophia paid off a bunch of debts at the bank in one go. That she was seen coming out of Mr. Thompson's fancy office downtown." I smiled. "People talk, Margaret. They also say you got the beach house back somehow. That the sale was never legal." I poured her a glass of sweet tea. "You've known me 40 years. Do you really think I'd keep a secret like that from my oldest friend?" She studied me over the rim of her glass. "I think you're capable of anything when it comes to protecting your daughter, even if the protection looks like punishment from the outside." I didn't deny it. She set her glass down. "I won't ask for details. Just tell me this. Is Sophia going to be all right?" I looked out the window toward the street where children were riding bikes in the late afternoon light. "She already is," I said. "She just doesn't know how strong she's becoming yet." Mrs. Ellis nodded slowly. "You always were the quiet one, Eleanor. The one nobody saw coming." After she left, I stood in the kitchen alone, thinking about how many masks we wear for the people we love. Sophia thought she was wearing the mask of the fallen daughter. I was wearing the mask of the helpless widow, and somewhere beneath both masks, the real healing was happening, slowly, quietly, invisibly. One night, Sophia came home earlier than usual. Her shift had ended at 10 instead of midnight, because the office building had a power flicker and they sent everyone home. She found me in the living room with the television off, just sitting in the lamplight looking at an old photo album. She sat beside me without a word. We turned pages together, William holding newborn Sophia. The 3 of us at the county fair with cotton candy stuck in our hair. Sophia's high school graduation, her wedding day. Each picture felt like a small resurrection. When we reached the last page, a candid shot of William, and me on the beach house porch at sunset, his arm around my shoulders. Both of us laughing at something only we understood. Sophia touched the photo gently. "I miss him so much," she said, voice cracking. "I know, sweetheart. I keep thinking, if I'd been different, if I'd stayed closer, if I'd valued what we had, maybe he'd still be here. Maybe none of this would have happened." I closed the album and took both her hands. Your father's death had nothing to do with you. It was his heart, not your choices. And the things that happened after, they were lessons, hard ones. But lessons you're learning now. He would be so proud of you for that. She cried then, the kind of deep, releasing sobs that come only when someone finally feels safe enough to let go. I held her the way I had when she was small, rocking her gently, whispering that it was all right, that she was loved, that she was home. When the tears finally slowed, she looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Mom, do you think I can ever make it right? All the hurt I caused? I brushed a strand of hair from her face. You already are, I told her. Every day you get up and go to work. Every time you choose honesty over excuses. Every time you sit with me instead of running away. You're making it right, one quiet moment at a time. She rested her head on my shoulder, and for a long time we simply breathed together. In that silence, I felt William's presence more strongly than I had in months. Not as a ghost, but as a quiet certainty. We were going to be all right. All three of us, even the one who was no longer here in body. The next morning, Sophia left for work with a lighter step. I watched her walk down the sidewalk until she disappeared around the corner. Then I went to the phone and called Mr. Thompson. It's almost time, I said. He understood immediately. I'll arrange the meeting for Friday. Should I prepare both folders? Yes, I answered. The truth can't hide forever. As I hung up the phone, the house felt different, lighter, as though it too had been holding its breath and was finally allowed to exhale. Friday was coming. The masks were about to come off. Friday morning arrived with the kind of soft, golden light that makes everything feel possible. I woke early, brewed coffee the way William always did, strong, with just a whisper of cream, and set 2 mugs on the table. Sophia came downstairs in her best blouse, the navy one she'd worn to job interviews. Though it hung a little looser on her now, her hair was pulled back neatly. But her eyes carried the weight of someone who had spent too many nights wondering if tomorrow would be kinder. Mom, she said, voice small, I'm nervous. What if the lawyer says there's nothing he can do? What if I'm stuck with these debts forever? I touched her arm gently. Let's just hear him out, sweetheart. One step at a time. We drove downtown in silence. The old Chevy, recovered, quietly by Mr. Thompson, still smelled. Faintly of William's aftershave. Sophia ran her fingers along the dashboard like she was touching a memory. Mr. Thompson's office smelled of polished wood and fresh coffee. He greeted us with his usual calm warmth. But there was something different in his eyes today, a knowing spark. Mrs. Hayes, Miss Hayes, please sit. Sophia perched on the edge of the chair like she might bolt at any second. Mr. Thompson placed 2 thick folders on the desk. First, he said, sliding the thinner one towards Sophia, these documents concern your legal situation with Daniel's debts. She opened the folder with trembling fingers. Her eyes scanned the pages, then widened. This says the signatures were forged. There's security footage, emails, the French police report on the fake marriage. It says I'm not liable. None of it is my responsibility. She looked up at Mr. Thompson, then at me. How is this possible? I don't have money for investigators, for international cooperation. Mr. Thompson glanced at me. It was the signal we'd agreed upon. I took a slow breath. Sophia, there's something I need to tell you. Something your father left behind that I didn't share until now. I nodded to Mr. Thompson. He placed the second, much thicker folder in front of her. She opened it slowly. The first page was a property deed, then another. Bank statements, investment summaries, company ownership documents. Her breathing grew shallow as she turned page after page. When she reached the ownership record for the apartment, building she used to call home, she froze. You own my building? The one Daniel used as collateral? The one I just got an eviction notice for? Yes. She flipped further. The beach house, rental properties, the motel on the coast. Account balances that made her hand fly to her mouth. Mom, this can't be real. Dad was a mechanic. How? Your father was a quiet genius with money, I said softly. Every extra dollar we saved, every overtime shift, every skipped vacation, he invested. Carefully, patiently. He never told me the full extent because he didn't want me to worry. And he especially didn't want you to know. He wanted you to love us for us, not for what we had. Tears spilled down her cheeks as the truth settled. So when I called you from the doctor's office, when I told you I sold everything, you already knew you weren't poor. You knew you could stop me. You knew you could fix it all. I nodded, yes. She stared at me, the betrayal and confusion warring with something deeper. Then why, Mom? Why did you let me come back broken? Why did you watch me cry myself to sleep every night? Why did you let me clean offices at 3 a.m? When you could have written one check and ended it? The question hung between us like smoke. I reached across the desk and took her hand. Because money would have fixed the surface, sweetheart. But it wouldn't have fixed what was broken inside you. You needed to feel what it was like to lose everything, to understand what it means to be truly helpless, to taste the bitterness of betrayal from someone you trusted completely. Only then could you really see what you had thrown away. She pulled her hand back, wiping her face. You punished me. I let life punish you, I corrected gently. And then I stood by to help you pick up the pieces. When you were ready to learn from it. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. Miss Hayes, your mother has covered every legal expense. The forgery case is airtight. You are free of all liability. The beach house is back in her name. The Chevy is in the driveway. Everything that was taken improperly has been restored. Sophia looked from him to me, then back again. The room was so quiet I could hear the tick of the old wall clock. Finally she spoke, voice barely above a whisper. You forgave me before I even asked. I forgave you the moment you walked through my door asking to come home, I said. The question is, can you forgive yourself? She closed both folders carefully, as though they might crumble if she moved too quickly. Then she looked at me, really looked, and I saw something shift in her eyes. Not just gratitude, not just relief, respect, the kind a woman gives another woman when she recognizes strength she never knew existed. I don't know if I can forgive myself yet, she said, but I know I want to try. Every single day. Mr. Thompson stood. I'll give you two some time alone. When the door closed behind him, Sophia got up and came around the desk. She didn't hug me right away. Instead, she stood in front of me, hands at her sides, looking small and enormous all at once. Mom, thank you for not rescuing me when I wanted it. Thank you for waiting until I needed it. Then she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. This time, the embrace wasn't desperate. It was deliberate, grateful, whole. We stayed like that for a long time. When we finally separated, she wiped her eyes and gave a shaky laugh. So, I guess I can quit cleaning offices. I smiled. You can. But I hope you don't, not yet. She tilted her head. Why? Because that job is teaching you something no amount of money ever could. It's teaching you the dignity of your own sweat, the pride of a paycheck you earned, the respect that comes from showing up when no one is watching. Keep it a little longer. Let it finish its work in you. She nodded slowly. Okay, for now. I'll keep going. We left the office together, walking side by side down the marble hallway. Outside, the Charleston sun was bright, the palmetto trees swaying gently. The world looked the same, but everything had changed. In the Chevy on the way home, Sophia turned to me. Mom, what happens now? Now, I said, we rebuild. Not the way things were. Better, honest, real. She reached over and squeezed my hand. Together? Together. When we pulled into the driveway, Mrs. Ellis was waiting on her porch next door, pretending not to watch. Sophia waved at her. A small, shy wave. Mrs. Ellis waved back, smiling like she knew more than she was letting on. Inside the house, Sophia paused in the hallway and looked at the family photos on the wall. She touched the one of the three of us at the beach house, William's arm around both of us, all of us laughing into the wind. I want to go back there, she said quietly. Not to pretend nothing happened, but to remember who we were and to figure out who we're going to be. I nodded. Soon, when you're ready. That night we ate leftovers on the back porch. No fancy china, just mismatched plates and paper napkins. Sophia told me stories from her cleaning shifts. The funny things, people left in office break rooms, the kindness of the night security guard, who always said good morning even though it was midnight. I told her about the years William and I struggled to buy the beach house, the nights we ate beans and rice so we could make the mortgage payment. For the first time in years, the conversation wasn't about what we had or didn't have. It was about who we were. When she went to bed, I stayed up a little longer. I walked through the quiet house, touching the things William had loved. His old toolbox in the garage, the armchair where he read the paper every Sunday, the rosebush he planted on our 10th anniversary. I stood under the stars and whispered, "We did it, my love. She's coming back to us, not the same girl who left, but the woman you always knew she could be." Somewhere I felt him smile. The next chapter was beginning, and this time we were writing it together. The days after the revelation in Mr. Thompson's office felt like the first, quiet moments after a long, violent storm. The air was still heavy with moisture, the ground soft and uncertain underfoot. But the worst of the wind had passed. Sophia and I moved carefully around each other, learning this new version of our relationship, the way two people learn to dance again, after years apart. She kept her night cleaning job. Every evening at 6:30 she kissed my cheek, slipped on her sensible black sneakers, and walked out the door with her little canvas bag that held gloves, a water bottle, and a small notebook where she jotted down thoughts between tasks. She came home around midnight, smelling of pine cleaner and quiet accomplishment. One Tuesday night she arrived earlier than usual, cheeks flushed from the cool October air. "Mom, you won't believe what happened tonight." I set aside the book I'd been pretending to read. "Tell me." Mrs. Johnson brought her granddaughter to work. Little girl, maybe 8 years old. She was supposed to stay home, but the sitter canceled. So she sat in the break room doing homework while we cleaned. When we finished the 3rd floor, Mrs. Johnson asked if I'd sit with her for a few minutes so she could finish. The lobby without the girl getting lonely. Sophia's eyes were bright. I did. We talked about school, about her favorite books. She asked me why I clean offices at night. I told her the truth. I made some big mistakes, and I'm learning how to be a better person. She looked at me very seriously and said, "That's brave. Most grown-ups pretend they never make mistakes." Then she hugged me, just like that. A tiny hug from someone who doesn't even know my name. Sophia sat down beside me on the couch. I cried the whole way home on the bus. Not sad tears, grateful ones. For the first time I felt like maybe I'm not just paying a debt to the past. Maybe I'm building something new. I reached for her hand. "You are. Every single night." The next morning she surprised me with breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, fresh coffee. Nothing fancy, but cooked with care. We ate at the kitchen table, sunlight slanting through the window and catching the dust motes in golden light. "Mom," she said between bites, "I've been thinking about what I want to do next. Not just a job, a purpose." I waited. "I want to go back to school. Not for another business degree or something that looks good on paper. I want to study social work. I want to help women who are where I was, trapped, scared, thinking there's no way out. I want to be the person who says, 'You're not alone, and you don't have to stay broken.'" My heart swelled so big I thought it might crack my ribs. "That's beautiful, Sophia. I know it'll take time and money, but I want to pay for it myself. I've already started saving from my paychecks. It's not much yet, but it's mine." I smiled. "And if you ever need help—" "I know the offer is there," she interrupted gently. "But I need to do this the hard way. I need to know I earned it." I nodded. "Then you will." That afternoon, Mrs. Ellis came over with a plate of her famous pecan pie. She'd become a regular visitor, always with food and always with questions. She tried and failed to disguise as casual conversation. "So," she said, settling into the rocking chair on the porch, "word around the neighborhood is that Sophia's still working nights. Thought maybe with everything she'd quit by now." I poured us both iced tea. "She's choosing not to." Mrs. Ellis raised an eyebrow. "Most people would jump at the chance to stop scrubbing floors when they've got a fortune sitting in the bank. Most people haven't learned what she has." She studied me for a long moment. "You know, Eleanor, when Sophia first came back looking like a ghost, I thought you were being too soft on her, taking her in after what she did. But watching her these past weeks, she's different. Not just sorry, changed. And I think maybe the hard road was the only road that could have gotten her there." I looked out at the street where children were playing basketball in a driveway. Sometimes love has to hurt a little to heal properly. Mrs. Ellis reached over and squeezed my arm. "You're a wise woman, Eleanor Hayes, and a brave one." After she left, I found Sophia in her room studying at the small desk William had built for her when she was 12. Textbooks on human behavior, social welfare policy, case management. She'd checked them out from the public library, free, but she'd paid the late fee on one with her own money because she'd forgotten to return it on time. She looked up when I knocked on the open door. "Hey, Mom, come in." I sat on the edge of her bed. "I talked to Mrs. Ellis. She's proud of you." Sophia laughed softly. She probably never thought she'd see the day when the spoiled girl from down the street was proud to be a janitor. She sees more than that. We all do. Sophia closed her book. Mom, can we go to the beach house this weekend? Just for the day? I think I'm ready. My breath caught. You sure? I need to see it. Not to mourn what I did, but to honor it. To remember what family means there. I nodded. Saturday, then. We'll pack a picnic. Make a day of it. Saturday dawned clear and cool. The kind of autumn day that smells like salt and fallen leaves. We loaded the Chevy with sandwiches, thermoses of coffee, a blanket, and a small photo album. The drive to the coast was quiet but comfortable. The radio playing soft oldies that William used to sing along to off-key. When we turned onto the gravel road that led to the house, Sophia's breath hitched. It looks exactly the same. The cream-colored siding, the wide porch William built with his own hands, the rose trellis still climbing the railing, even though no one had tended it in months. We parked and sat for a moment, just looking. Sophia got out first. She walked slowly up the steps, touching the porch rail as though it might disappear. I followed, carrying the picnic basket. Inside, the house smelled of sun-warmed wood and memories. Everything was as we'd left it. The nautical curtains, the shell collection on the mantel, the old wooden table where we'd eaten countless summer meals. Sophia stood in the living room, looking at the family photos on the wall. I remember every single one of these, she said softly. Dad teaching me to shuck oysters on the porch. You making peach cobbler in that tiny kitchen. The 4th of July when the fireworks reflected on the water, and I thought the whole world was magic. She turned to me, eyes shining. I sold this place like it was nothing. Like these walls didn't hold every happy memory I had. I'm so sorry, Mom. Not just for the money, for the disrespect. For treating our history like it was disposable. I stepped closer. I know, sweetheart. And it's forgiven, completely. She shook her head. I don't want it to be easy. I want to earn the forgiveness every day. We spread the blanket on the beach and ate our sandwiches watching the waves. The ocean was gentle that day, small waves whispering against the shore. Gulls cried overhead. A few families walked by, children running with kites. Sophia spoke after a long silence. I have an idea. Something I've been thinking about since Mr. Thompson's office. I waited. I want to turn this house into something more than ours. A safe place. A temporary shelter for women leaving bad situations, domestic violence, financial abandonment, whatever it is that makes them feel they have nowhere to go. We could keep it simple. A few bedrooms, a shared kitchen, someone to listen when they need to talk. We could fund it through the foundation you're starting. I could help run it when I finish my degree. My heart expanded until I thought it might burst. Your father would love that, I said. He always said a house isn't truly a home until it opens its doors to people who need shelter. Sophia smiled through tears. Then let's do it. Let's make this place what it was always meant to be, a sanctuary. Not just for us, for anyone who needs one. We stayed until sunset, watching the sky turn pink and gold over the water. When we finally packed up to leave, Sophia paused at the door, looking back into the house. Thank you, Dad, she whispered, for everything. As we drove home in the gathering dusk, the Chevy's headlights cutting through the early dark, Sophia reached over and took my hand. Mom, I love you, not because you saved me, but because you let me save myself. I squeezed her fingers. And I love you. Always have. Always will. The road stretched ahead, familiar and new all at once. We were going home, not to the house we'd left behind, but to the future we were building together. One honest, hard-won step at a time. The decision to transform the beach house into a shelter felt like planting a seed in soil that had been scorched by fire, risky, but full of quiet hope. Sophia threw herself into the planning with the same determined energy she now brought to everything. She spent evenings at the kitchen table with legal pads, library books on nonprofit management, and her phone open to free online courses about grant writing and trauma-informed care. One night she looked up from a stack of notes and said, Mom, I think we should name it after Dad. William's Haven. Simple, strong, like he was. I felt the familiar sting of tears behind my eyes. He would have been honored. And a little embarrassed. He never liked being the center of attention. She smiled. Too bad. He's getting the spotlight this time. We began the process slowly. Mr. Thompson handled the legal structure, setting up the foundation as a 501c3, with the beach house as its flagship property. I quietly transferred funds from one of William's investment accounts, enough to cover renovations, basic furnishings, and 6 months of operating expenses. Sophia insisted on transparency, every dollar tracked, every decision documented. If we're going to help women rebuild, she said, we have to model what trust looks like. While the paperwork moved forward, Sophia continued her night shifts. She started bringing home stories, small victories that lit her from the inside. Mrs. Johnson's granddaughter came again tonight. She told me one morning over breakfast. She's reading Charlotte's Web for school. She asked if spiders are really that smart. I told her some are. Then she asked if people can change like Wilbur did, from scared to brave. I said yes, if they want to badly enough. I watched my daughter across the table, her face softer than I'd seen it in years. The woman who once measured love by luxury now measured it in quiet conversations and second chances. Mrs. Ellis, ever the neighborhood oracle, became our unofficial cheerleader. She started dropping off casseroles labeled "For the Haven Ladies" when they arrive, even though the house wasn't ready yet. You two are doing something real, she said one afternoon while we sorted donated linens on the porch. Not just throwing money at a problem. You're giving people dignity. That's rare. Sophia looked at her. I learned the hard way what it feels like to lose your dignity. I don't want anyone else to feel that alone. Mrs. Ellis reached over and patted Sophia's hand. You're making your daddy proud, child. And your mama, too. The renovations began in late November. We hired a small local crew, men and women who knew the coast, who understood that a house holds memories. They widened doorways for accessibility, added grab bars and bathrooms, painted the bedrooms in soft, soothing colors. Sophia worked alongside them on weekends, learning to sand, to prime, to caulk. Her hands grew rougher, her arms stronger. One Saturday, I found her on the porch, paint-speckled and sweating, staring at the ocean. You okay? I asked. She nodded slowly. I keep thinking about the day I sold this place. I didn't even come here. I just signed papers in a coffee shop downtown. I treated it like a transaction. Now every nail we drive, every coat of paint, it feels like I'm apologizing to the house itself. I sat beside her on the steps. The house forgives you. Houses are good at that. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm trying to forgive myself the same way. Christmas came quietly that year. No big parties, no extravagant gifts. Sophia and I decorated the bungalow with the old ornaments. William loved the glass star he'd bought our first Christmas together, the wooden angel Sophia painted in 3rd grade. We baked cookies using his recipe, the kitchen filling with cinnamon and vanilla. On Christmas Eve, Sophia gave me a small, wrapped box. Inside was a simple silver keychain shaped like a tiny house, engraved with the words, William's Haven. I had it made, she said. One for you, one for me. So we always remember what this is really about. I slipped it onto my key ring beside the Chevy key. Thank you, sweetheart. She gave me a hug that lasted longer than any since she was small. New Year's Eve we spent at the beach house. The renovations weren't finished, but the bones were strong. We built a fire in the stone fireplace, spread blankets on the living room floor, and watched the year turn while waves rolled in the dark. At midnight, Sophia raised her mug of hot chocolate. To new beginnings, to second chances, to Dad, who loved us enough to believe we could be better. I clinked my mug against hers. To us, the women we're becoming. January brought the first grant applications. Sophia wrote them herself, late into the night after her shifts. She poured her story into the proposals, not as tragedy, but as proof that transformation is possible. I don't hide what I did, she told me. I use it. If a foundation is going to trust us with their money, they deserve to know exactly who's running this place. The first approval came in February, a modest amount from a local women's fund. It felt like a miracle. By spring, the house was ready. Fresh paint, sturdy beds, a welcoming kitchen stocked with basics. We hung a simple wooden sign above the porch. William's Haven, a place to begin again. The first resident arrived in April. A woman named Maria, 38, 2 small children, fleeing a husband who'd taken everything. She stood on the porch clutching a duffel bag, eyes wary. Sophia greeted her at the door. Welcome home, she said simply. Maria looked around uncertain. How long can we stay? As long as you need to get on your feet, Sophia answered. There's no rush here. Over the next weeks, we watched Maria slowly unfold. The children played on the beach for the first time. Maria cried in the kitchen one night after the kids were asleep, then laughed the next morning when Sophia taught her how to make William's famous pancakes. One evening, Maria found Sophia sweeping the porch. You don't have to do this, you know. You could hire someone. Sophia smiled. I like sweeping. It gives me time to think. And honestly, it reminds me where I came from. Maria studied her. You're not what I expected from someone who owns a place like this. Sophia leaned on the broom. I'm exactly what I expected. Just took me a long time to get here. Maria nodded slowly. Thank you for not judging me. Sophia's voice softened. I've been judged enough for both of us. You're safe here. That's all that matters. Word spread quietly. More women came, some with children, some alone. Each arrival felt like another layer of healing. Sophia worked the night shift 3 times a week to keep money coming in, then spent her days at the Haven, listening, helping with resumes, driving to appointments. I watched her bloom into someone I barely recognized, not because she'd changed into someone new, but because she'd finally become who she'd always been meant to be. One summer evening, as the sun dipped low, Sophia and I sat on the porch of the Haven, watching children chase waves. Maria's kids were among them, shrieking with joy. Sophia turned to me. Mom, do you think Dad can see this? I looked at the sky, the water, the house that now held so many stories besides our own. I know he can, I said. And I know he's smiling. Sophia rested her head on my shoulder. We did good, didn't we? I kissed the top of her head. We did better than good, sweetheart. We did right. The waves kept rolling in, steady and eternal. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly as it should be. Part 6. Summer arrived like a long-awaited guest, warm and generous, filling the beach house with light and laughter that echoed off the walls in ways they hadn't since Sophia was small. William's Haven was no longer just an idea or a renovation project. It was alive. 3 women and their children called it home for now. Each story different, each healing in its own quiet rhythm. Maria had found a part-time job at the local library, shelving books and helping children with summer reading programs. Her youngest, little Mateo, had learned to swim in the gentle waves behind the house. The older girl, Isabella, spent afternoons on the porch with Sophia, reading aloud from library books and practicing her English. Another resident, Carla, arrived in June with nothing but a backpack and a black eye that was fading to yellow. She spoke little at first, but Sophia never pushed. She simply left coffee on the kitchen table every morning, sat nearby without demanding conversation, and waited. One evening, Carla finally spoke. I thought I'd never leave, she said, staring at her hands. Every time I tried, he said he'd find me. Said no one would believe me. Sophia nodded slowly. I know what it feels like to believe someone else's voice over your own. To think you're not worth believing. Carla looked up, surprised. But you own this place. Sophia smiled softly. I used to think owning things made me safe. Turns out safety comes from knowing who you really are, and who you refuse to be anymore. Carla cried then, the kind of silent tears that have been held back for years. Sophia sat beside her, not touching, just present. When the tears slowed, Carla whispered, Thank you for not fixing me. For just being here. Sophia's voice was gentle. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is witness someone else's pain without trying to make it disappear. I watched these moments from the doorway, heart full. My daughter, who once ran from discomfort, now sat in its center without flinching. The Haven's small garden, once overgrown and forgotten, became a community project. Sophia organized Saturday mornings. Women weeding, planting tomatoes, herbs, sunflowers. Children ran through the rows, laughing. Even I joined, kneeling in the dirt beside Carla, showing her how William used to plant roses. He said flowers teach patience, I told her. You can't rush them. You just give them what they need and trust they'll bloom when they're ready. Carla looked at the tiny seedlings pushing through the soil. Like us. Exactly like us. Sophia's studies progressed. She'd been accepted into the online social work program at the state university, paying for each course with money she'd saved from cleaning and a small stipend. From the foundation, she studied late at night in the bungalow's living room. Textbooks spread across the coffee table, highlighter in hand. One evening she closed her book and looked at me. Mom, I got an A on my first paper. It was about intergenerational trauma and resilience. I wrote about us. My throat tightened. What did you say? I said sometimes the greatest act of love is allowing someone to fall so they can learn how to stand. That real rescue isn't pulling someone out of the fire. It's standing beside them while they walk through it. I reached across and squeezed her hand. Your father would be so proud. She smiled, tears shining. I think he already is. Mrs. Ellis visited the Haven one Sunday with a trunk full of donated clothes from her church group. She stayed for lunch, simple. Sandwiches and lemonade on the porch, and watched the children play. When the kids ran down to the beach, she turned to Sophia. You know, I remember when you were their age. Running around this very porch, bossing everyone. Thought the world belonged to you. Sophia laughed self-consciously. It kind of did. And I didn't appreciate it. Mrs. Ellis reached over and patted her knee. The beautiful thing about life is it gives you chances to become someone better. You're doing that, every day. Sophia looked out at the ocean. I used to think success was having things. Now I think it's being the kind of person who can give things away without keeping score. Mrs. Ellis nodded. That's wisdom, child. Real wisdom. Fall brought the first harvest from our garden. Tomatoes red and heavy, basil fragrant, zucchini overflowing. Sophia organized a community dinner on the beach. Residents, volunteers, neighbors. Long tables set with mismatched dishes. Lanterns strung between the dunes. Music from an old portable speaker. Maria's children helped serve. Carla read a short poem she'd written about finding her voice again. Everyone clapped, tears in their eyes. After dinner, Sophia stood up. I want to say something. This place, this house, was built with love. My father's love, my mother's love, and now all of your love. We're not just giving shelter here. We're giving each other hope. And hope, I've learned, is the strongest thing we have. People raised their glasses, some with water, some with lemonade, some with nothing at all, and toasted quietly. Later, when the guests had gone and the children were asleep, Sophia and I walked the beach together. The moon was full, silver path across the water. Mom, she said, do you ever regret it? Letting me hit bottom? I stopped and looked at her, really looked. The woman standing beside me was strong, kind, scarred, beautiful. Not for a second, I answered, because the woman standing here now is worth every hard moment. You're not just my daughter anymore. You're my friend, my partner, my hero. She hugged me fiercely, the way she used to when she was small and the world felt too big. I love you, she whispered into my shoulder. I love you more, I answered, the old childhood game that never grew old. We walked back to the house, arms around each other. The porch light was on, warm and welcoming. Inside, the women who lived there slept peacefully. Outside, the ocean sang its endless lullaby. I thought about William, about his quiet smile, his steady hands, his belief that love is patient and kind and sometimes has to wait. Thank you, I whispered to the stars, for trusting me with her. And somewhere I knew he whispered back, You're welcome, my heart. You did beautifully. The haven glowed softly in the moonlight, a beacon for anyone who needed one. And inside it, two women who had lost everything and found each other again, walked through the door together, home at last. Part 7. Time has a way of softening edges, of turning sharp memories into something almost tender when viewed from far enough away. By the second autumn of William's Haven, the house had become more than a shelter. It had become a small community, a quiet revolution built one woman, one child, one repaired heart at a time. Sophia had graduated with her bachelor's degree in social work the previous spring. She walked across the stage in a simple black gown, her hair pulled back the way I used to do it when she was little. And when her name was called, the small group we'd brought, Maria, Carla, Mrs. Ellis, a few volunteers, stood and cheered louder than anyone else in the auditorium. She looked out into the crowd, found my eyes, and smiled the kind of smile that said, We made it, together. Now she worked part-time at the local Women's Resource Center while still overseeing the Haven. She'd reduced her cleaning shifts to twice a week, enough to keep her grounded, she said, enough to remind her what it felt like to earn every dollar. One crisp October morning, she came into the bungalow kitchen carrying a thick envelope. Mom, look! Inside were letters, handwritten, typed, some on notebook paper, some on fancy stationery. Thank you notes from women who had stayed at the Haven and moved on. One read, Dear Sophia and Mrs. Hayes, I was terrified the night I arrived. I thought I'd never feel safe again. You gave me more than a bed and a roof. You gave me back my belief that I could start over. Today I signed the lease on my first apartment. My daughter starts kindergarten next week. We're going to be okay. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. With gratitude forever, Lydia, Sophia's eyes were wet as she read it aloud. There are 12 more like this. 12 women who are out there living again because we believed in them. I pulled her into a hug. Because you believed in them, sweetheart. You're the one who sits with them at 2 a.m. when the fear comes back. You're the one who drives them to job interviews, helps them fill out applications, celebrates every tiny victory. She shook her head against my shoulder. We did this. You and me. And Dad, he's in every wall of that house. We decided to hold a small celebration at the Haven that weekend. Nothing grand, just a potluck dinner, music, stories around the fire pit on the beach. The women who still lived there helped plan. Maria made her famous arroz con pollo. Carla baked apple pies from apples we'd picked at a nearby orchard. The children drew welcome signs and hung them across the porch. When Saturday arrived, the house glowed with lanterns and laughter. Neighbors came. Mrs. Ellis with her famous cornbread, the librarian where Maria worked, even the crew who'd done the renovations. They brought their families, their stories, their quiet support. After dinner, Sophia stood by the fire pit. The flames danced in her eyes as she spoke. 2 years ago, I thought I'd lost everything. I thought I'd ruined my life, and my mother's. I thought the only thing left was shame. But shame isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a different one, if you're brave enough to keep going. She looked around at the faces lit by firelight. Some she'd known for years. Some she'd only met months ago. This place, this haven, was built on the belief that no one is beyond redemption. That every woman who walks through that door deserves a chance to rewrite her ending. And every single one of you has proven that belief true. She paused, voice catching. My father taught me that real wealth isn't in bank accounts. It's in the lives we touch. Tonight, looking at all of you, I know he was right. We are rich beyond measure. People clapped, some cried, some simply sat in the warm silence that followed. Then Carla stood up. I want to say something too. She looked nervous but determined. I came here thinking I was broken forever. Sophia never once treated me like I was broken. She treated me like I was healing. And because of that, I started believing it myself. Today, I start a new job, administrative assistant at the community center. It's not glamorous, but it's mine, and I'm proud of it. One by one, others shared, small victories, big dreams, hopes they'd almost forgotten they were allowed to have. When the fire died to embers and the children had fallen asleep on blankets, Sophia and I walked down to the water's edge. The moon was a thin silver crescent. The waves whispered secrets to the shore. Mom, she said quietly, do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't made that phone call from the doctor's office? If I'd kept pretending everything was fine? I looked at the dark water, remembering the day the call came. The coldness in her voice, the strange calm that followed. I think about it sometimes, I admitted. And then I think, maybe it had to happen exactly that way. Maybe the only way you could learn the value of what we had was to believe you'd lost it completely. She nodded slowly. I used to hate that you let me suffer. Now I'm grateful, because the woman I am today, she's someone I actually like. Someone I respect. And I never would have met her if you'd rescued me too soon. I reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The way I used to when she was small. You were always that woman, Sophia. She was just waiting for you to find her. We stood there a long time, listening to the ocean breathe. Eventually she spoke again, voice soft as the night. I think I'm ready to move back into the bungalow with you. Not because I have to, because I want to. I want us to keep doing life together. Not as mother and helpless daughter, but as two women who choose each other every day. My heart swelled so big I could hardly speak. I'd like that very much. She smiled. Good, because I already packed my things. They're in the Chevy. I laughed, the deep, free laugh that had become more common since she came home. We walked back to the house hand in hand. The fire pit had burned down to glowing coals. Lanterns still flickered on the porch. Inside, the women who lived there slept peacefully, dreaming new dreams. Sophia paused at the door and looked back at the beach. The haven, the life we'd built. Thank you, Dad, she whispered, for believing we could be this. And I added silently, thank you for trusting me to help her become who she was always meant to be. The stars above seemed to wink in answer. We turned and stepped inside together. Home wasn't just a place anymore. It was us. And we were finally, completely where we belonged. Part 8. Years have a gentle way of weaving themselves into the fabric of a place until You can no longer separate the story from the walls that hold it. By the 5th year of William's Haven, the cream-colored beach house had become something of a quiet legend along the South Carolina coast. People spoke of it in low, respectful voices, the place where women came broken and left standing taller, where children learned to laugh again, where hope wasn't just a word but a daily practice. The house itself had changed too. We'd added a small wing with 2 extra bedrooms, a community room where women could hold support groups, and a sunroom overlooking the ocean that Sophia insisted on calling the breathing room. The garden had grown lush, roses climbing the trellis William built, sunflowers nodding in the breeze, a vegetable patch that fed residents and neighbors alike. Every spring we planted new things together, a ritual that felt like renewal made visible. Sophia was 38 now, her hair still dark but threaded with silver at the temples, the same silver that had appeared in mine after William passed. She carried herself with the easy confidence of someone who has walked through fire and come out the other side, knowing exactly who she is. She had completed her master's in social work 2 years earlier, again paying her own way with savings, grants, she wrote herself, and the small salary from her position as program director at the Women's Resource Center. She still kept 1 night shift a month at the office, cleaning company, not because she needed the money, but because she wanted to. It keeps me humble, she'd say, and it reminds me that dignity isn't something you're born with. It's something you choose every single day. One crisp November afternoon, she came home from the Haven carrying a thick scrapbook the residents had made for her birthday. Inside were photos, letters, drawings from the children, pages filled with gratitude and memories. She sat beside me on the porch swing and opened it slowly. "Look at this," she said, turning to a page where Maria had written, "Sophia, you were the first person who believed I could be more than what happened to me. Because of you, I'm now a supervisor at the library. My daughter wants to be a social worker when she grows up. You planted that dream." Sophia's voice caught. "I didn't plant anything. I just refused to let them believe the lie that they were finished." I touched her hand. "That refusal is everything, sweetheart." We sat in companionable silence, listening to the waves and the distant laughter of children playing on the beach. After a while, she spoke again. "Mom, I've been thinking about something big." I raised an eyebrow. "Bigger than turning Dad's sanctuary into a home for dozens of women?" She smiled. "Maybe. I've been talking with the foundation board. We have enough reserves now and enough steady donors that we could expand. Not just here, across the state. Smaller houses, maybe 3 or 4 more, each one named after someone important. One could be the Eleanor House, another the Margaret. Ellis House. Mrs. Ellis would love that, even if she'd pretend to be embarrassed." I laughed softly. She'd be insufferable with pride. Sophia grew serious. "But the first one, the flagship, will always be William's Haven, because without him, none of this would exist. Not the money, not the love that built it, not the belief that people deserve second chances." I looked out at the ocean, remembering the man who'd quietly built a fortune while never letting it change his heart. "He'd say you're giving his money the best possible purpose," I told her. She nodded. "I want to keep doing this work. Not from a distance, but with my hands in it. I want to keep listening to stories, holding space for pain, celebrating small victories. Because every time I help someone else stand up again, I feel like I'm standing up a little taller too." I squeezed her fingers. "Then keep doing it. The world needs more people who understand that healing isn't about erasing scars. It's about learning to live beautifully with them." That evening, we hosted our annual Haven Thanksgiving dinner. The long tables stretched from the dining room out onto the porch. Residents past and present came back, some with husbands or partners they'd met after leaving, some with new children, some alone but radiant in their independence. Mrs. Ellis arrived with 3 pies and her famous green bean casserole. The children ran wild on the beach while the adults shared stories. At one point, Sophia stood up, glass raised. "This holiday has always been about gratitude," she said. "Tonight, I want to say thank you. To my father, who loved us enough to believe we could be better than our worst mistakes. To my mother, who loved me enough to let me fall so I could learn to fly. To every woman who has walked through that door believing you were broken, only to discover you were simply becoming. And to all of you here tonight, who remind me every day that love, real love, is the strongest force we have." The applause was soft but heartfelt. Glasses clinked. Tears were wiped away with napkins. And somewhere in the background, the ocean kept its steady rhythm, like a heartbeat that never stops. Later, after the dishes were done and the last guests had gone, Sophia and I walked down to the water. The moon was full, painting the waves silver. "Mom," she said quietly, "do you think Dad would recognize us now?" I looked up at the stars. "I think he'd look at you, at the woman you've become, and say, 'That's my girl.' Then he'd look at me and say, 'You did good, my heart.'" Sophia slipped her arm through mine. We did good together. We stood there a long time, letting the night wrap around us. Eventually she spoke again, voice soft. "I've decided something else. I'm not going anywhere. Not for a long time. This coast, this house, this work, you. This is home. And I choose it every day." I turned to her, seeing the strong, kind, scarred, beautiful woman she'd become. "Then we'll keep choosing it," I said. Together. We walked back up the beach toward the lights of the haven. The porch lamp glowed warm and steady. Inside, the house held the quiet breathing of sleeping women and children. Outside, the ocean sang its ancient song. And in that moment, everything felt complete, not perfect. Not without pain, but deeply, truly right. William's Haven stood behind us, a beacon in the dark, and we, mother and daughter, walked forward hand in hand. Two women who had lost everything once, and found something far greater in its place: love, forgiveness, purpose, and each other forever. The years continued their quiet march, each one adding new layers to the story of William's Haven like pages in a well-loved book. By the 10th anniversary of its opening, the original cream-colored house by the sea had become the heart of a small network of 5 safe havens scattered across South Carolina, each one named with care. William's Haven, Eleanor's house, Margaret's place, Mrs. Ellis had protested loudly, then cried happy tears when the sign went up. Maria's Hope, and finally, Sophia's Sanctuary, the newest and largest, built on land we'd purchased near Charleston to serve as the administrative hub and training center. Sophia was 43 now. The silver in her hair had spread, giving her an air of quiet authority that matched the depth in her eyes. She still kept one night shift a month cleaning offices, though now it felt less like penance and more like a private ritual of gratitude. She would come home afterward, smelling faintly of lemon polish, and sit with me on the porch while the first light of dawn touched the horizon. One such morning she arrived, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee from the all-night diner near the cleaning job. "They still remember Dad's order," she said, handing me mine. "Black with 2 sugars. Said the old mechanic used to come in every Sunday after church." I took the cup, warmth spreading through my hands. "He did, always tipped too much and told terrible jokes." We sat in the rocking chairs that had once belonged to William, watching the world wake up. "Mom," she said after a while, "I've been offered something. A national position, executive director for a coalition of women's shelters across the Southeast. It would mean travel, speaking engagements, policy work, a lot more visibility." I studied her face. "And the Haven?" "I'd still oversee it. We'd hire a full-time director here, someone young, hungry, with fresh ideas. I'd come back every month, make sure the heart of it stays the same." I nodded slowly. "What do you want to do?" "Us?" She looked out at the ocean, the same view that had witnessed every major turning point of our lives. "I want to do it," she said finally. "Not because it's bigger or more impressive, because I believe the lessons we learned here, the hard, painful, beautiful lessons, can help more women if we share them wider. But I won't take it unless you think it's right." I reached over and covered her hand with mine. "Your father always said the measure of a life isn't how much you keep, but how much you give away. You've already given so much here. If your heart is telling you to carry that light farther, then carry it." She smiled, relief and determination mixing in her expression. "Then I'll take it. And I'll make sure the Haven never loses its soul." The announcement came with a small ceremony on the beach behind the original house. Residents past and present gathered, along with donors, volunteers, staff from the other locations, and a few local reporters who'd been following the story for years. Sophia stood on a simple wooden platform we'd built for the occasion, wearing the same navy dress I'd worn the day I walked into Mr. Thompson's office all those years ago. She spoke without notes. 10 years ago, this house was my father's quiet dream, a place of refuge built on love and foresight. When he passed, my mother turned that dream into action. When I came home broken, they both taught me that broken things can become beautiful. Again, not by hiding the cracks, but by filling them with gold. She looked at me, eyes shining. This work isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up day after day for people who've forgotten they deserve to be shown up for. It's about believing that every woman who walks through our doors is already whole. She just needs help remembering it. The crowd was silent, the only sound the soft rhythm of waves. Today I accept this new role not because I've arrived anywhere, but because I'm still walking the same path my parents put me on. A path of love, forgiveness, second chances, and the stubborn refusal to give up on anyone, including myself. Applause rose, gentle at first, then stronger. People stood, some wiped tears. Mrs. Ellis, now in her 80s and still sharp as ever, dabbed her eyes with a lace handkerchief and whispered loudly. Enough for everyone to hear. That's my girl. After the ceremony, Sophia found me on the porch. Thank you, she said simply. I pulled her into a hug. Thank you for becoming the woman I always knew you were. That evening we held our traditional anniversary dinner. Long tables on the beach, lanterns in the dunes, stories shared around fire pits. Maria, now the director of her own library branch, spoke. Carla, who'd started a small catering business, brought trays of food she'd prepared herself. Women who'd stayed for weeks, for months, for years, came back to say thank you. When the stars came out, Sophia and I walked away from the crowd, down to where the waves kissed the sand. Mom, she said, do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd never made that phone call? If I'd stayed gone? I smiled into the darkness. Every once in a while. And then I look at this, at you, at the Haven, at the lives changed, and I think, maybe the hardest moments are the ones that matter most. She nodded. I used to hate that you let me suffer. Now I understand it was the greatest gift you could give me. I stopped and turned to her. And you gave me the greatest gift in return. What's that? You came home. Not just to the house, to yourself, to me. We stood there, mother and daughter, two women who had traveled through fire together, and emerged stronger on the other side. The waves kept rolling in, eternal and patient. Somewhere overhead, I felt William watching, quiet, proud, smiling that small smile he always saved for the people he loved most. We walked back toward the lights of the Haven, hand in hand. The path ahead was wide open, full of new stories waiting to be written. And we would write them together, as we always had, as we always would. The 10th anniversary of William's Haven came and went like the gentle turning of a tide, quiet, inevitable and full of grace. The original house still stood on the coast, weathered but strong, its porch railings worn, smooth by countless hands that had leaned there seeking comfort or courage. The network had grown to 7 shelters now, each one carrying the name of someone who had mattered deeply in our story. They were places of second chances, third chances, endless chances, because love, we had learned, does not keep count. Sophia, now in her mid-40s, traveled more than she once did. She spoke at conferences, met with legislators, trained new directors, and always came home to Charleston, with the same quiet hunger for the salt air and the rhythm of the waves. She never forgot where the story began. One late spring afternoon, she arrived at the bungalow unannounced, carrying nothing but a small wooden box and a smile that held both mischief and tenderness. Mom, I have something for you. We sat together on the back porch, the same porch where William used to read the Sunday paper and where Sophia had once confessed her deepest regrets. She placed the box between us. Open it. Inside lay 2 identical keys, simple brass, each attached to a small silver tag engraved with the words, "Forever Home." I looked up, puzzled. They're for the bungalow, she explained. I had duplicates made, one for you, one for me, because this house, this place where everything fell apart and everything came back together, is ours. Not because of money or ownership, because we chose it. Every single day. My throat tightened. You're not leaving, are you? She laughed softly. No, the opposite. I'm coming home for good. The coalition has a new executive director, someone brilliant, young, full of fire. I've trained her myself. My work now is here, at the Haven, with you, with the women who walk through those doors every week. I've spent years telling other people how to hold space for healing. Now I want to do it myself again. Hands in the dirt, heart in the listening. I reached across and took her hand, the same hand I'd held when she was born. When she graduated, when she came home broken, when she stood up strong. Then come home, I said. The porch swing has been waiting. We spent the summer the way we had once dreamed we might. Quietly, deliberately, together. Mornings, we walked the beach before the world woke up, collecting shells the way we had when she was small. Afternoons, she worked at the Haven, listening to new stories, laughing with the children, helping women fill out job applications or write letters they'd never dared send before. Evenings, we cooked William's recipes, ate on the porch, talked about everything and nothing. Mrs. Ellis, now moving slower but no less sharp, visited every Sunday with a dish she claimed was just extra. But we all knew she made specially. She and Sophia had become unlikely best friends, two women who understood that life's deepest lessons often come wrapped in the most ordinary moments. One Sunday in late August, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of peach and lavender, Mrs. Ellis looked at us both and said, "I never thought I'd live long enough to see the spoiled girl from down the street become the heart of something this beautiful." Sophia smiled. "I never thought I'd live long enough to become her." Mrs. Ellis reached over and patted Sophia's knee. "Your daddy would be bursting with pride. And your mama, she's the quietest hero I've ever known." I felt the familiar sting behind my eyes, but they were happy tears now, tears that carried no regret. That night, after Mrs. Ellis went home, Sophia and I sat under the stars. "Mom," she said softly, "do you think we've finished the story?" I looked up at the sky where I still felt William watching. "No," I answered. "Stories like ours don't finish. They just keep unfolding. New women will come. New children will play on that beach. New lessons will be learned. And we'll be here, together, watching it all happen." She rested her head on my shoulder. "Then let's keep writing it, one day at a time." We stayed there until the night grew cool, until the only sounds were the waves and our breathing. Somewhere in the quiet, I spoke to William without words. "Thank you, my love, for the plan you left behind, for believing we could become more than our mistakes, for giving us this life, imperfect, hard-won, beautiful." And somewhere, in the way the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, I knew he answered, "You're welcome, my heart. You both did beautifully." The bungalow light glowed warm behind us. The Haven waited down the coast, its porch lamp burning steady. And we, mother and daughter, two women who had lost everything once and found everything that truly mattered, sat together in the gentle dark, not at the end of the story, but exactly where we belonged, in the middle of forever,